Jane, have you ever seen a single painting that makes an entire museum visit worthwhile? One performance that just silences all the noise.
It's that moment of pure, undeniable clarity, isn't it? When everything else fades away. And I think millions of football fans saw that piece of art this weekend. It was painted in Buffalo, and the artist was Josh Allen.
Absolutely. Welcome everyone to the Huddle, where we try to find the story behind the stats. Week 11 is in the books, and it felt like a seismic shift. Let's lay out the canvas. The Bills absolutely dismantled the Buccaneers in a 44-32 shootout. But it wasn't just them.
Not at all. The league was pure chaos in the best way possible. You had the Broncos taking control of the AFC West with a walk-off field goal against the Chiefs, winning 22-19. The Rams held their breath and squeaked by the Seahawks 21-19 in a huge NFC West battle where Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions. We saw records being set. Bryce Young throwing for a Panthers franchise record 448 yards in an overtime win. This week was a pressure cooker.
But let's go back to that artist in Buffalo, because what Josh Allen did wasn't just a win, it was a declaration. The box score is almost absurd, 6 total touchdowns. He completed 19 of 30 passes for 317 yards and 3 scores through the air. But the numbers don't capture the violence, the beauty of his game.
That's the perfect word for it, Joe. Violence. It was controlled fury. The articles talk about his dominance, but that feels too sterile. What I saw was a guy who decided to stop playing chess and just flip the entire board over. Tampa Bay actually ran the ball well, putting up over 200 yards on the ground. They were matching the Bills punch for punch early on.
And then Allen decided the rules no longer applied to him. There was one play, the scramble out of a collapsing pocket. He shrugs off a defender who should have sacked him, and then throws a 40-yard dart on the run. That isn't a diagram on a whiteboard. That's not coaching. That is pure, unadulterated will.
It felt personal. You know, the Bills had been a bit inconsistent, and analysts were starting to whisper. They were 6-3 coming into this, same as Tampa Bay. There were questions about their run defense, about their offensive consistency, and Allen played like he heard every single one of those whispers and decided to answer them with a roar.
But that brings us to the deep analysis, the billion-dollar question. Is that sustainable? Can a team ride a hurricane like Josh Allen all the way to a Super Bowl, or does the storm eventually burn itself out? Because for every moment of magic, there's a moment of madness. He still had 2 interceptions in that game.
And that's the paradox of Josh Allen. He is, simultaneously, the Bills' greatest weapon and their biggest variable. Most of his passing production came against zone coverage. He absolutely shredded it. Teams know what he's going to do, but they are powerless to stop the force of his talent. But you're right, Joe. Living on that edge, it's a high wire act without a net.
I'm torn. The storyteller in me, the part that loves the beautiful chaos of this game, says yes. He's a generational talent doing things we've rarely seen. But the analyst in me sees the risk. Every one of those wow plays is a breath away from a turnover, from disaster. What happens to the Bills if their artist has to leave the field?
It also puts a fascinating pressure on the rest of the AFC. If you're the Chiefs, now trailing the Broncos in the division, or the Ravens, who had to survive their own tough game against the Browns, you're not just game planning for the Bills' offense anymore. You're game planning for a force of nature. How do you defend a moment of impossible magic that defies strategy?
You can't. You just have to brace for impact and hope you're still standing when it's over. That's what Week 11 felt like to me. It was a dividing line. It was the point in the novel where the pretenders started to fade and the true protagonists revealed a power they'd been holding back all season.
It's the part of the climb where the air gets thin and you finally see who has the lungs to make it to the summit. We saw teams like the Bears win a defensive slugfest 19-17, showing grit. We saw the Jaguars demolish the Chargers 35-6, making their own statement. But the loudest statement, the one that echoed across the entire league, came from Buffalo.
And the message was crystal clear. Winter isn't coming. It's already here, and it's wearing number 17.
That's all the time we have for the Huddle. We'll see you next week to break down whatever beautiful chaos the league throws at us next.
This podcast combines verified reports with expert analysis and narrative storytelling. Some dialogues may be dramatized for clarity, but all facts are sourced from credible media.